definitely has to happen because we're gonna change them for promo shots.
Can we do like the back-to-back?
Obviously. Are there other options?
And I'll be dressed as peace and you'll be dressed as war. Or should we go opposite? Because like, I don't
That's
know
very
why.
predictable.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's because I'm Pitta.
That's the only reason.
That's why it is. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Yeah, so I like wanted to quickly stream this.
Yes.
She's
I'm cleaning my face.
casting magic spells.
I'm gilding the lily. You know?
Yeah.
Clearly, what you see before you is a lily.
You know, and we're just I just want to say we're providing this for free.
She's telling you this for free $99.
Like, you know, you don't have to scour the internet. You can just get this for free. You don't have to like pay a dermatologist. Dermatologists, what do they know?
They don't know nothing.
They might be able to tell you if it's cancer or not, but can they tell you which toner to use?
They can't.
They can, but you have to pay them. Or
Oh. It's like they can't do it. You're like, yes, they can.
yes, they can.
Okay, I'm just gonna shut up. I thought I was being like a hype man, but I'm not doing it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, okay. We didn't see what cleanser she used. What did you use? I think you've mentioned it before.
Yeah, I love the CosRx green tea. Not green tea. Tea tree.
Tea tree.
Good morning.
Other tea.
Good morning. Is green tea a tree? Is it green tea tree?
Green tea tree.
I just got all my wires all scrambled.
Wait, is tea tree a tea? No.
No, it's a tree.
Confusing.
But tea is a bush. It's not a tree. Just so everybody knows.
But a tree is a tree?
A tree, what? Yeah, tea tree is a tree. This was like a conversation about where potatoes come from. And
oh, yeah.
there was some weird thing of like, my brother-in-law was like, oh yeah, and then they like come hanging down, and my mom's like, no, they don't. Definitely they don't. And I just said they don't. It's fine.
You should have just left him believing his strange belief.
I don't know what he believed. Coming down to the dregs of this.
Oh dear. Okay,
I already have a backup.
She was using like the makeup toner.
Raw
and now
sauce.
She's using raw sauce.
It's not a
Sorry,
toner.
it's not a toner.
It's
what
a
is
sauce.
it?
It's a sauce. Like tea tree is a tree. Raw sauce is a sauce.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it's a sauce. Excuse me.
Public service. Yes.
It's a sauce that she applies to her face.
Raw sauce.
And you know what? It's all about the sauce. Like, yeah. It's maple water.
Yes.
No wonder I like it.
Why? Because you're Canadian?
Yeah. And then we have peach and lily glass refining serum.
Which everybody who's nobody definitely uses this.
I don't use it.
Exactly. Everybody who's nobody.
I don't know why. I'm just holding out. I don't know. Just like to be different.
Because if your skin were glossier, it would shatter.
No, it definitely could be glassier. I'm breaking out all kinds.
Please weigh in on this.
I don't know what's happening here. I have like a breakout muzzle on my face.
Okay.
And it might be all the hot sauce because I eat a lot of hot sauce.
There's literally nothing.
No, I know because I put stick on it.
I saw you earlier today. Did you wake up and first thing put stuff on it? You know, my mother told me that what's her face?
Yes.
Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
Says that nobody has seen her without makeup in like husband, partners, boyfriend, like nothing and no one in like 20 years. Something crazy.
Oh, it's under there.
A heart of gold.
It's under there.
That's what's under there.
I talked to you right about Jane Fonda taking off her makeup.
Something about doing it at night.
I don't know why it's the greatest moment of television.
No, I don't remember.
In Gracie and Frankie, Jane Fonda is dating a younger man. She's 80. And she's dating Nick, who is Peter, what's his face? He's got gigantic lips and gigantic eyebrows.
Gallagher.
He would be a really attractive, like, he's got the features for, like, a really attractive,
A top model.
so basically, eyebrows and lips, like, you're done.
Peter Gallagher.
Yeah. So she's dating him, and he's, like, about in his 50s in the show. And so it's very weird for her to be dating a younger man, even though he's old. It's very interesting, I think.
Is he old?
Like, well, he's got to be like 60 or something. Anyway,
Okay, I don't think
like,
that's-
to me, he's old, but then to her, he's like much, much younger.
Yeah.
And anyway, she's like trying to keep up appearances. And she's actually like hurt her hip. And so she's walking around with a cane and trying to hide that too. Oh, and then finally there's this one scene where she's like, okay, fine. You want to see? Because she keeps like keeping him at an arm's length. And he's like, why won't you let me get close to you? And she's like, fine, you want to get close or something like. And she takes off her makeup in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And but she also like takes off her makeup for all of us, you know. And the one thing about that show is it like the lighting on it is like severely diffuse. Is that the right word? There's that lighting person needs to win all the awards because everyone on the show is so lit up. Like, it's like no shadows, no. But anyway, she like just takes off all her makeup, all her like false eyelashes, everything, and you finally see what Jane Fonda looks like.
She's probably beautiful.
She's beautiful, but like, yeah, she's an 80-year-old woman. It's so romantic.
You mean like between them or just like as an idea?
No, between them. I don't know. As an idea too.
She's never been without makeup in front of him?
No, never. I'm not.
I thought that was the thing that just Dolly Parton did.
I don't think I'd ever seen Jane Fonda without. I've never seen older Jane Fonda without makeup either.
Okay.
Yeah. It did make me wonder. I don't think they did this, but it made me wonder if they had like non-makeup makeup.
Yeah.
You think they did that too?
I mean, I don't know if they did it because I haven't seen it also, but yeah, I think suddenly.
Like whether she took it off and then they're like, okay, quickly go in and make it look better.
Yeah. Like right now, nobody in the universe would think that you had anything on your face, right?
Right, so just for little spots.
Maybe. Assuming there are spots. Mm-hmm.
Look at that face.
Hello.
Whew.
Hello.
It's pretty good.
Is it? It's because I slept all day.
I cleaned today.
Did you? Mm-hmm. And you made bread? That was impressive.
Made bread. I did all the stereotypical quarantine things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's some dressings on the counter. I didn't know if you wanted to keep them.
Dressings?
Yeah.
I don't have any dressings.
There's little jars with pop. There's little jars. Anyway, I didn't get rid of anything.
From the fridge?
No, from the counter. From the cupboard. I went through all the spices.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, anyway. It's right on the counter. It's nothing exciting. But
I don't have any dressings, so I'm wondering what it is.
Like right next to the oven.
Oh, that's not a thing. These two are not mine.
They're not?
No? I've never seen these.
They're mine?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. When did I?
These
okay.
are both exactly as they're supposed to look.
Those are? Okay, I had no idea what those were, and I just wanted to make sure they weren't bad.
Nope.
Okay. Okay. What is that?
I don't know the English words for either of them. Oh, wait, one of them might be jaggery.
Oh.
That might be an English word. Is jaggery an English word? I don't know. But the other one I don't even know the Hindi. I know no words for it.
Really?
Some company. Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
There's some earwigs. go to places.
I bet you there will. We can spray stuff in the house if you want,
It's
but
getting to the point where I'm like not affected by them.
I'm kind
I'm
of
like,
not
yeah,
either.
hi, how's it going?
Me too. That's why I haven't really done anything about
There's definitely less.
it. Yes. Yeah. I think it might be the eucalyptus lemon thing that it's dripping here, there, and everywhere.
Nice. Or it got hot. Or it's a combination.
It's not the heat, it's an issue of humidity. It's like the more it rains, the more there are.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's more like a seasonal thing. It's not just like, did it rain this week? There's going to be more rivers.
Yeah.
But it's more a climate thing.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
it's super late.
Mm-hmm.
We got to read some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, some Tolstoy.
We gotta read some stuff. Are we going on our road trip afterwards?
Yeah.
Great.
Shh. It's an essential road trip.
Yeah.
It's very essential.
We're gonna just go rub our bodies against people. It's not funny.
No, don't do that.
What would happen? Like rightfully
We call the
so.
police.
If I just like touch someone, what would happen?
We call the police. I mean,
No.
I don't know if they would,
I
but
think
if you
it would-
kept doing that.
I think it would be like Pierre and the French soldier.
In what way?
Where we'd both just like look at each other and be like, what's happening?
Well, you would know what was happening because you went up to them and touched them. So it would be
But I
strange
think-
if you looked at them like
I
you
think
didn't know
I
what was
definitely
happening.
would because I'd be like, what did I just do?
Actually, that's probably true.
Yeah.
And Pierre does respond like that to things he's done,
That's true.
like a Rostov. I don't know how to. I haven't asked either of my potential sources about Andrew.
Oh, I haven't really thought about that.
You haven't? I have a few times.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought of something. Anyway,
Oh, you just saw thought of something?
I
What
thought of
was the
something. No, I'm not going to say
What
it.
was the thing?
I'll tell you later.
Does this not work anymore? I heard everything except the crucial word, the last word. 2? You mean because I was distraught?
Yeah.
And I was like, I just need to be somewhere else right now. Maybe.
Yeah.
Such a quarantine thing. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Me neither.
So
I
kind of want to show you. Okay, what?
Oh, I'm sure that's gonna happen.
Not like against your will. Jeez. I'll do it like Pierre. I'll show you and then be like, oh. We'll both record.
No. Yeah, it'll be like while I'm driving.
Yeah.
Um,
We're gonna go to Night Beach. Last what? Last night?
last night.
What happened last night?
I don't know.
I think someone died.
Someone. Well, at least someone died. There was. Wait, before we get to that, what else happened?
That everything got wiped out from my memory.
Okay, so Helena has decided that she wants to remarry.
Yes. It's a Kurgan thing.
And she's doing it like Trump. Like, it's kind of brilliant. Where it's just, if you have no shame around it, and you say it with absolute certainty and naivete, people will go along with it.
Yeah. So I don't think she's even got a divorce plan. Like, it seems to me like she's just planning on marrying someone else.
This was the very crafty thing. So she decided not to have the conversation be about divorce because that's something people don't like. she has 2 other gentlemen who are in love with her and want to marry her, even though it sounds like she convinced them that they wanted to marry her.
I don't know. Everybody wants to marry her.
Everyone. I kind of want to marry her.
So do I.
Yeah.
Have you heard tell of her?
So she's like started all this talk around town of like, oh, I have to pick between these 2 guys.
Which one?
Yeah.
Straw man. Classic straw man.
Genius. Anyway. And so it seems like people are gonna let her do this, and so she writes to Pierre, and who loves her too. Pierre loves her too so much that he'll definitely allow her to
That's
divorce
so
him.
confusing to me that she thinks Pierre loves her.
Yeah.
Didn't he like throw something at her?
Yeah, that was when they were fighting though. And now it's forgotten.
But then he's moved back in, and she hasn't noticed that they don't like have sex or anything.
I don't think they talk at all.
They coexist. It's almost like one of them is a ghost.
He's the ghost. Yeah. There was also something about the fact that like, oh, they don't have children, so he hasn't lived up to his.
Oh, because there's that comment about like if you want to remarry in order to have kids, then it would be legitimate.
Yeah.
Isn't she like 100 at this point? Isn't everyone so old?
No, because it's only been 7 years.
Oh.
Since the beginning of the book.
Oh.
So I forget how old she was when we met her, but honestly, I bet she's like 25, and we're treating her like she's ancient.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, actually, she might be about that old. If not, like max 30, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she writes to Pierre saying, "Good news! I'm going to remarry soon."
Yeah. Does he even have any response? He's just like...
Well, he doesn't get the letter because...
Oh, it gets delivered to his house.
It gets delivered to his house.
When he's...
They have separate houses, right? Anyway.
Right.
Sounds like a great marriage, actually.
This is the only way I'd get married.
Right?
If you stay over there.
Just... Yeah. And so she sends the letter the day that he goes to battle.
Not as a soldier.
Not as a soldier, as a voyeur.
Like a safari, like on safari.
Very much like on safari. Yeah. And then we go back to Pierre, and he is not well after the battle. He's very shaken up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sleeps in the car.
He sleeps in the car. That's something I so would do.
He follows a bunch of people.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you guys eating?
Yeah, pretty much. He ends up with some soldiers, and they're like, "What's your story?" And he's like, "Oh, I got separated from my troops."
Did he say that?
Yeah, totally.
Oh.
Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, you want some mash?" And he's like, "Yes, I do."
And he's like, and he eats and eats. And then they're like, "Okay, do you want us to take you and drop you off somewhere?
Pretty much.
Is your mommy home?" And he's like, "I don't know." And then they walk him to Moget's.
Yeah. And then his groom finds him and is like, "Where the hell have you been?"
And they're like, "Oh, cool. This is your mommy. Great."
Yeah, pretty much. They're like, "Hey, good luck." And then they can't get a room at the inn. So he just sleeps in his carriage.
And where does the groom sleep? What I want to know.
Oh, the groom doesn't get to sleep.
Oh.
I don't know. He sleeps outside.
Okay.
I don't know.
And he has a tremendous dream. There's a tremendous dream
he
sequence.
has a dream.
I really liked that sequence.
I can't really remember what the dream was, but it was that he had to
harness
it. But I think it was related to that, like, there's like some, he was thinking like, oh, I should have become a soldier, and I can never do that now. And there was something about like that he has a role to fulfill.
And his role will be expressed if he harnesses.
I don't know what the it is. He has to harness it.
I always, that's what I always say to Aaron. What's the it? What are we talking about?
Yeah. And then his groom wakes him up and he's like, "Sir, we have to harness.
Yeah.
Yes, I know we do, but you interrupted me.
And then he's like, "Good night, sir."
And then they go, I forget where they walk to? No, they don't walk because they have a carriage. But anyway, they go into town. Maybe they arrive in Moscow.
They give someone a ride.
Do they?
Yeah. Some general who's hurt themselves he gives them a ride.
Okay, yeah. Gives them a ride, and then the chapter ends, and he found out that Anatoly Kurgan and Prince Andrew have both died. And they just left us there.
Yeah, and I feel returned there. I gotta go.
So we're at book 11, chapter 10. Prince Vasily kept the promise he had given to Princess Drubetskaya, who had spoken to him on behalf of her only son Boris on the evening of Anna Pavlovna's soiree.
No.
The matter was mentioned to the emperor, an exception made, and Boris transferred into the regiment of Semenov Guards with the rank of cornet.
What chapter is this?
Is this right?
That's not what I have.
Just a second.
Chapter 10? Were you at Anna Pavlovna's party?
I might have been a bookworm. Can we rewind?
She thought it was a flashback, but really she was the one flashing back.
I was like, this is familiar. This is like, we're going way back. Never mind.
She's like, oh, remember that? Appropriately, I was like, no.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think I'm there.
Okay.
You start.
On the 13th of August, Pierre reached Moscow. Close to the gates of the city, he was met by Count Rostopchin's adjutant.
We've been looking for you everywhere, said the adjutant. The Count wants to see you particularly. He asks you to come to him at once on a very important matter. Without
going home, Pierre took a cab and drove to see the Moscow commander-in-chief.
Count Rostopchin had only that morning returned to town from his summer villa at Sokolniki. The anteroom and reception room of his house were full of officials who had been summoned or had come for orders. Vasilchikov and Platov had already seen the Count and explained to him that it was impossible to defend Moscow and that it would have to be surrendered. Though this news was being concealed from the inhabitants, the officials, the heads of the various government departments, knew that Moscow would soon be in the enemy's hands, just as Count Rostopchin himself knew it. And to escape personal responsibility, they had all come to the governor to ask how they were to deal with their various departments.
As Pierre was entering the reception room, a courtier from the army came out of Rostopchin's private room.
In answer to questions with which he was greeted, the courier made a despairing gesture with his hand and passed through the room.
While waiting in the reception room, Pierre, with weary eyes, watched the various officials, old and young, military and civilian, who were there. They all seemed dissatisfied and uneasy. Pierre went up to a group of men, one of whom he knew. After greeting Pierre, they continued their conversation.
If they're sent out and brought back again later on, it will do no harm. But as things are now, one can't answer for anything.
But you see what he writes, said another, pointing to a printed sheet he held in his hand.
That's another matter. That's necessary for the people, said the first.
What is it? Asked Pierre.
Oh, it's a fresh broadsheet.
Pierre took it and began reading.
I'm so glad we figured out what broadsheet was, actually.
We checked first thing because it was in one of those sentences that was like a mystery wrapped in a fucking.
But I very easily could have never looked it up.
Really?
And been like, yeah.
You mean because you know the word broad and you know the word sheet?
I would think it would have something to do with weapons.
Because of broadsword. I need tacky nuts.
His Serene Highness has passed through Mozhaisk in order to join up with the troops moving toward him and has taken up a strong position where the enemy will not soon attack him. 48 guns with ammunition have been sent him from here, and His Serene Highness says he will defend Moscow to the last drop of blood and is even ready to fight in the streets. Do not be upset, brothers, that the law courts are closed. Things have to be put in order, and we will deal with villains in our own way. When the time comes, I shall want both town and peasant lads, and will raise the cry a day or two beforehand. But they are not wanted yet, so I hold my peace. An axe will be useful, a hunting spear not bad, but a 3-pronged fork will be best of all. A Frenchman is no heavier than a sheaf of rye. Tomorrow after dinner, I shall take the Iberian icon of the Mother of God to the wounded in the Catherine Hospital, where we will have some water blessed. That will help them to get well quicker. I too am well now. One of my eyes was sore, but now I'm on the lookout with both. No, you're not. I'm so confused about his eyes. Anyway.
This is not him talking.
Who's-
I think this is Rostovs.
One of my eyes hurt. Alright.
It's confusing that one of his eyes is on.
Okay. That's camera stuff.
Considering he's talking about His Serene Highness.
Yeah, okay.
But military men have told me that it is impossible to fight in the town, said Pierre, and that the position.
Well, of course, that's what we were saying, replied the first speaker.
And what does he mean by one of my eyes was sore, but now I am on the lookout?
Yes, what does he mean? Thank you, Pierre. The Count had a sty, replied the adjutant, smiling, and was very much upset when I told him people had come to ask what was the matter with him. By the by, Count, he added, suddenly addressing Pierre with a smile. We heard that you have family troubles and that the Countess, your wife...
I've heard nothing, Pierre replied unconcernedly. But what have you heard?
Oh, well, people often invent things. I only say what I heard.
Right, that's what I'm just asking.
Yeah.
But what did you hear?
Yes. Well, they say, continued the adjutant with the same smile, that the Countess, your wife, is preparing to go abroad. I expect it's nonsense.
Possibly, remarked Pierre, looking about him absent-mindedly. And who is that? He asked, indicating a short old man in a clean blue peasant overcoat with a big snow-white beard and eyebrows and a ruddy face.
That's a tradesman. That is to say, he's the restaurant keeper. Vereshchagin. Perhaps you have heard of that affair with the proclamation.
Oh, so that is Vereshchagin, said Pierre, looking at the firm, calm face of the old man and seeking any indication of his being a traitor.
That's not he himself. That's the father of the fellow who wrote the proclamation, said the adjutant. The young man is in prison, and I expect it will go hard with him.
An old gentleman wearing a star and another official, a German wearing a cross round his neck, approached the speaker.
It's a complicated story, said the adjutant. That proclamation appeared about 2 months ago. The Count was informed of it. He gave orders to investigate the matter. Gabriel Ivanovich here made the inquiries. The proclamation had passed through exactly 63 hands. He asked one, from whom did you get it? From so-and-so. He went to the next one. From whom did you get it? And so on till it reached Vereshchagin, a half-educated tradesman, a pet of a trader, said the adjutant, smiling. They asked him, who gave it to you? And the point is that we knew whom he had it from. He could only have had it from the postmaster. But evidently they had come to some understanding. He replied, from no one. I made it up myself.
What the fuck is going on?
I don't know. Can you make sense of what that is?
They're like, where'd you get the mail? Where'd you get the mail?
Yeah, and then he's like...
And everyone's like, from the mailman, obviously.
But he doesn't say that. He's like, no, I just made it up.
Yeah, like the buck stopped with him for whatever reason. Are you going or?
Yes, okay. It's weirdly structured on mine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like written like a song.
It just randomly goes into that and italics, like as and when it pleases.
Yeah. They threatened and questioned him, but he stuck to that. I made it up myself. And so it was reported to the Count, who sent for the man. From whom did you get the proclamation? I wrote it myself. Well, you know the Count, said the adjutant cheerfully, with a smile of pride. He flared up dreadfully, and just think of the fellow's audacity, lying, and obstinacy.
What are we talking about?
That dude. Imagine.
Are you?
Oh, sorry. Okay. And the Count wanted him to say it was from Flutra. I understand, said Pierre.
Me too, Pierre. Not at all, rejoined the adjutant in dismay. Klucharev had his own sins to answer for without that, and that is why he has been banished. But the point is that the Count was much annoyed. How could you have written it yourself, said he, and he took up the Hamburg Gazette that was lying on the table. Here it is. You did not write it yourself, but translated it, and translated it abominably, because you don't even know French, you fool! And what do you think? No. What is happening? I don't.
Every time we go back to town, It gets crazy.
every time we're in town, we're just like lost.
You would think that war would be more confusing, but no.
No.
Nay, nay.
Nay, nay. And what do you think? No, said he. I have not read any papers. I made it up myself. If that's so, you are a traitor, and I'll have you tried and you'll be hanged. Say from whom you had it. I have seen no papers. I made it up myself. And that was the end of it. The count had the father fetched, but the fellow stuck to it. He was sent for trial and condemned to hard labor, I believe. Now the father has come to intercede for him. But he's a good-for-nothing lad. You know, that sort of tradesman's son, a dandy and lady killer? He attended some lectures somewhere and imagines that the devil is no match for him. That's the sort of fellow he is. His father keeps a cook shop. I'm going to say that. He attended some lectures somewhere and imagines that the devil is no match for him. He's a dandy and a lady killer. His father keeps a cook shop here by the stone bridge, and you know there was a large icon of God Almighty painted with a scepter in one hand and an orb in the other. Well, he took that icon home with him for a few days, and what did he do? He found some scoundrel of a painter. I have literally no idea what that chapter was about. Chapter 10 of book 11. There was a proclamation. Is that the proclamation that they read from the broadsheet? No. Because Count Rostovs wrote that.
Yeah.
So why would they be trying to figure out where the proclamation came? Okay. I think we should just move on.
I think we should move on.
Okay.
Chapter 11.
Yes.
In the middle of this fresh tale. Freshest of all tales.
It's so fresh, it's totally without context and without...
Like, I want to make a song about that.
About?
That tale.
About how fucking fresh it was?
Yeah. We were shagging. In the middle of this fresh tale, Pierre was summoned to the commander-in-chief.
When he entered the
In
private...
the middle?
In the middle of it.
Oh, like right then.
Like right there.
He
Yeah.
found some scandal of a painter, and then he's like,
Yeah.
Pierre's
like,
like,
oh, this is so fresh though. When he entered the room, the private room, Count Rostovs, puckering his face, was rubbing his forehead and eyes with his hand. Don't do that. COVID. A short man was saying something.
Doesn't he have a sty? He shouldn't be doing that either.
Oh, excuse me. That's probably how he got the motherfucking sty. He's touching all types of shit. I think that is. Oh god.
So he'll be like, yeah, like not intentionally, but that's why he's doing it.
Because he is.
Because it hurts, so he's like, ooh.
Styes are not cool. I can't remember the last time I had one, but I'm pretty sure they suck.
I think they normally do. I don't think anyone's been like, sweet. Sty.
But you know those things that like are itchy but you can't scratch?
Yes.
Like things that are just like frustrating. It's not even like pain, that's just what it is what it is.
Yes, it's just irritating.
Yeah.
Yes.
A short man was saying something, but when Pierre entered, he stopped speaking and went out.
And how do you do, great warrior? Said Rostovs as soon as the short man had left the room. We have heard of your prowess.
What?
Shoot. But that's not the point. Maybe they think he actually did something.
Clearly.
Between ourselves, mon cher, do you belong to the Masons? He went on severely, as though there was something wrong about it, which he nevertheless intended to pardon. Pierre remained silent. I am well informed, my friend.
No, I need you to do that moment.
Hmm?
I need you to do the moment as though there was something wrong about it, which he nevertheless intended to pardon.
There's something wrong about it, but okay. Between ourselves, mon cher, do you belong to the Freemasons?
That was good.
Okay.
That was good, wasn't it?
Thanks. Pierre remained silent. I am well informed, my friend, but I am aware that there are Masons, and I hope that you are not one of those who, on pretense of saving mankind, wish to ruin Russia.
Yes, I am. Amazing.
Good job, Pierre. There you see, mon cher. I expect you to know that Messieurs Speransky and
Remember Speransky?
No, I do not. Magnitsky. Who's Speransky again?
Speransky is the one that Andrew was a little poodle to for a while.
Yeah.
The schemer and dreamer.
Yes.
The one with the soft hands or something.
He's the one who actually he wanted to reform Russia.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Speransky and Magnitsky have been deported to their proper place. Mr. Khrushchev has been treated in the same way, and so have others who, on the plea of building up the Temple of Solomon, have tried to destroy the temple of their fatherland. You can understand that there are reasons for this, and that I could not have exiled the postmaster had he not been a harmful person. Is that maybe what has to do with that weird story? So he's like, no, it wasn't the postmaster. It wasn't the postmaster, because that would say that he was in cahoots with the postmaster. Anyway. It has now come to my knowledge that you lent him your carriage for his removal from town.
And the postmaster? Sorry, yes, I think so. But
yeah, I think so. And that you have even accepted papers from him for safe custody. I like you and don't wish you any harm, and as you are only half my age, I advise you, as a father would, to cease all communication with men of that stamp and to leave here as soon as possible.
Whoa, but what did Khrushchev do wrong, Count? Who the f is Khrushchev? I think I'm going to look it up.
Yeah. I wanted to say it was from, I think Khrushchev is the postmaster. But you're saying who is he beyond that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to keep reading.
Yeah.
That is for me to know, but not for you to ask. Shouted. That is for me to know, but not for you to ask, shouted Rostovchin. If he is accused of circulating Napoleon's proclamation, it is not proved that he did so. That's the proclamation, said Pierre without looking at Rostovchin. And Vereshchagin... There we are, Rostovchin shouted at Pierre louder than before, frowning suddenly. Vereshchagin is a renegade and a traitor. Will be punished as he deserves, said he, with the vindictive heat with which people speak when recalling an insult. But I did not summon you to discuss my actions, but to give you advice, or an order, if you prefer it. I beg you to leave town and break off all communication with such men as Khrushchev. And I will knock the nonsense out of anybody, but probably realizing that he was shouting at Bezhukov, who so far was not guilty of anything, he added, taking Pierre's hand in a friendly manner, We are on the eve of a public disaster, and I haven't time to be polite to everybody who has business with me. My head is sometimes in a whirl. Well, mon cher, what are you doing personally?
Why, nothing, answered Pierre without raising his eyes or changing the thoughtful expression on his face.
The Count frowned.
A word of friendly advice, mon cher. Be off as soon as you can. That's all I have to tell you. Happy he who he has ears to hear. Goodbye, my dear fellow. Oh, by the by, he shouted through the doorway after Pierre. Is it true that the Countess has fallen into the clutches of the Holy Fathers of the Society of Jesus?
Pierre did not answer and left Rostovchin's room more sullen and angry than he had ever before shown himself.
When he reached home, it was already getting dark. Some 8 people had come to see him that evening. The secretary of a committee, the colonel of his battalion, his steward, his major domo, and various petitioners. They all had business with Pierre and wanted decisions from him. Pierre did not understand and was not interested in any of these questions and only answered them in order to get rid of these people. When left alone, at last he opened and read his wife's letter.
They, the soldiers at the battery, Prince Andrew killed that old man. Simplicity is submission to God. Suffering is necessary. The meaning of all, I must harness. My wife is getting married? One must forget and understand. And going to his bed, he threw himself on it without undressing and immediately fell asleep. I think that's a good call.
Totally. No, wake up and make decisions. Figure this out. When he awoke next morning, the majordomo came to inform him that a special messenger, a police officer, had come from Count Rostovchin to know whether Count Bezhukov had left or was leaving the town.
A dozen persons who had business with Pierre were awaiting him in the drawing room. Pierre dressed hurriedly and, instead of going to see them, went to the back porch and out through the gate.
From that time till the end of the destruction of Moscow, no one of Bezhukov's household, despite all the search they made, saw Pierre again or knew where he was. Okay, is everyone just dead?
I don't think he's dead, but like, I think we're not going to see Pierre for a while. And then we're going to find out what that rapscallion got up to.
Oh, I have an idea.
What do you think he's going to do?
I think he's harnessing. I think it's safe to say he's harnessing.
Yeah, don't you know that this book ends with him killing Napoleon? Yeah.
Spoiler. Imagine.
Like, it ends up with a duel between them. And he's like, I've dueled before. I happen to be quite good at this.
I don't know if you've heard of this, but this is not my first duel. And despite having no earthly idea what was going on,
it's like, I still haven't figured out how to use a pistol.
And that bodes well. That bodes very well for me.
But maybe it's for the best. Maybe I shoot better without knowing how to use it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Are we doing 12?
Yeah, is there anything we want to talk about with that?
With what just happened?
Do we understand?
No.
It kind of sounds like McCarthy. Kind of sounds like that. That anyone involved in any way with the Masons at this point is seen as a traitor.
I mean, that being said, everyone's leaving Moscow, so I don't know what the big deal about leaving Moscow is.
Right, like you would have to leave anyway.
I don't know why he just literally left his entire life.
As opposed to just leaving in a normal way. Like, it did seem like he had an opportunity to, like, pack.
And he has a battalion.
He does?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
He has all these people who were taking meetings with him, not because they've got nothing better to do with their lives.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, what about his responsibilities? Okay.
Like, oh, I can't handle this.
No, he definitely can't. Okay.
Just gonna climb out the window.
That's basically what he's done. He's eloped.
Pretty much.
On his own.
Yeah. Chapter 12.
Okay. The Rostovs remain. I've been wondering what happened with Petya. The Rostovs remained in Moscow till the 1st of September, that is, till the eve of the enemy's entry into the city.
After Petya had joined Obolensky's regiment of Cossacks and left for Belaya Serov, where the regiment was forming, the Countess was seized with terror. The thought that both her sons were at the war, had both gone from under her wing, that today or tomorrow either or both of them might be killed like the 3 sons of one of her acquaintances, struck her that summer for the first time with cruel clearness. She tried to get Nicholas back and wished to go herself to join Petya, or to get him an appointment somewhere in Petersburg, but neither of these proved possible. Petya could not return unless his regiment did so, or unless he was transferred to another regiment on active service. Nicholas was somewhere with the army and had not sent a word since his last letter, in which he had given a detailed account of his meeting with Princess Mary. The Countess did not sleep at night, or when she did fall asleep, dreamed that she saw her sons lying dead. After many consultations and conversations, the Count at last devised means to tranquilize her. He got Petya transferred from Obolensky's regiment to Bezhukov's, which was in training near Moscow. You're right. Okay. And I guess that's like when they all volunteered people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Though Petya would remain in the service, this transfer would give the Countess the consolation of seeing at least one of her sons under her wing. And she hoped to arrange matters for Petya so as not to let him go again, but always get him appointed to places where he could not possibly take part in a battle. As long as Nicholas alone was in danger, the Countess imagined that she loved her firstborn more than all her other children, and even reproached herself for it. But when her youngest, the scapegrace who had been bad at lessons, was always breaking things in the house and making himself a nuisance to everybody, that snub-nosed Petya, with his merry black eyes and fresh rosy cheeks, where soft down was just beginning to show, when he was thrown amid those big, dreadful, cruel men who were fighting somewhere about something and apparently finding pleasure in it, then his mother thought she loved him more, much more, than all her other children. The nearer the time came for Petya to return, the more uneasy grew the countess. She began to think she would never live to see such happiness. The presence of Sonia, of her beloved Natasha, or even of her husband irritated her. What do I want with them? I want no one but Petya, she thought.
At the end of August, the Rostovs received another letter from Nicholas. He wrote from the province of Voronezh, where he had been sent to procure remounts. But that letter did not set the countess at ease. Knowing that one son was out of danger, she became the more anxious about Petya.
Though by the 20th of August, nearly all the Rostovs' acquaintances had left Moscow, and though everybody tried to persuade the countess to get away as quickly as possible, she would not hear of leaving before her treasure, her adored Petya, returned. On the 28th of August, he arrived. The passionate tenderness with which his mother received him did not please the 16-year-old officer. Though she concealed from him her intention of keeping him under her wing, Petya guessed her designs, and instinctively fearing that he might give way to emotion when with her might become womanish, as he termed it to himself, he treated her coldly, avoided her, and during his stay in Moscow attached himself exclusively to Natasha, for whom he had always had a particularly brotherly tenderness, almost lover-like.
Owing to the Count's customary carelessness, nothing was ready for their departure by the 28th of August, and the carts that were to come from their Ryazan and Moscow estates to remove their household belongings did not arrive till the 30th.
From the 28th till the 31st, all Moscow was in a bustle and commotion. Every day, thousands of men wounded at Borodino were brought in by the Dorogomilov gate and taken to various parts of Moscow, and thousands of carts conveyed the inhabitants and their possessions out by the other gates. In spite of Rostovshin's broadsheets, or because of them, or independently of them, the strangest and most contradictory rumors were current in the town. Some said that no one was to be allowed to leave the city. Others, on the contrary, said that all the icons had to be taken out of the churches and everybody was to be ordered to leave. Some said there had been another battle after Borodino, at which the French had been routed, while others, on the contrary, reported that the Russian army had been destroyed. Some talked about the Moscow militia, which, preceded by the clergy, would go to the Three Hills. Others whispered that Augustin had been forbidden to leave, that traitors had been seized, that the peasants were rioting and robbing people on their way from Moscow, and so on. But all this was only talk. In reality, though the Council of Fili, at which it was decided to abandon Moscow, had not yet been held, both of those who went away and those who remained behind felt, though they did not show it, that Moscow would certainly be abandoned, and they ought to get away as quickly as possible and save their belongings. It was felt that everything would suddenly break up and change, but up to the 1st of September, nothing had been done. Nothing had done so. As a criminal who is being led to execution knows that he must die immediately, but yet looks about him and straightens the cap that is awry on his head, so Moscow involuntarily continued its wonted life, though it knew that the time of its destruction was near when the conditions of life to which its people were accustomed to submit would be completely upset.
During the 3 days preceding the occupation of Moscow, the whole Rostov family was absorbed in various activities. The head of the family, Count Ilya Rostov, continually drove about the city, collecting the current rumors from all sides and gave superficial and hasty orders at home about the preparations for their departure.
The Countess watched the things being packed, was dissatisfied with everything, was constantly in pursuit of Petya, who was always running away from her, and was jealous of Natasha, with whom he spent all his time. Sonia alone directed the practical side of matters by getting things packed, but of late Sonia had been particularly sad and silent. Okay. Nicholas's letter, in which he mentioned Princess Mary, had elicited in her presence joyous comments from the Countess, who saw an intervention of Providence in this meeting of the princess and Nicholas. That's so rude.
I was never pleased at Bolkonsky's engagement to Natasha, said the Countess, but I always wanted Nicholas to marry the princess and had a presentiment that it would happen. What a good thing it would be.
That's so terrible. Oh, okay. Sonia felt that this was true, that the only possibility of retrieving the Rostovs' affairs was by Nicholas marrying a rich woman, and that the princess was a good match. It was very bitter for her, but despite her grief, or perhaps just because of it, She took on herself all the difficult work of directing the storing and packing of their things, and was busy for whole days. The Count and Countess turned to her when they had any orders to give. Petya and Natasha, on the contrary, far from helping their parents, were generally a nuisance and a hindrance to everyone. Almost all day long, the house resounded with their running feet, their cries, and their spontaneous laughter. They laughed and were gay not because there was any reason to laugh, but because gaiety and mirth were in their hearts, and so everything that happened was a cause for gaiety and laughter to them. Petya was in high spirits because, having left home a boy, he had returned, as everybody told him, a fine young man. Because he was at home, because he had left Balaya Serov, where there was no hope of soon taking part in a battle, and had come to Moscow, where there was to be fighting in a few days. And chiefly because Natasha, whose lead he always followed, was in high spirits. Natasha was gay because she had been sad too long, and now nothing reminded her of the cause of her sadness, and because she was feeling well. No, it's been too long.
No, time.
Yeah. It's time for us all.
Yeah!
The way he phrased it made it sound like she's like, this
Totally.
is too long.
Totally.
It's overcooked. She was also happy because she had someone to adore her. See? The adoration of others was a lubricant the wheels of her machine needed to make them run freely, and Petya adored her. Above all, they were gay because there was a war near Moscow. There would be fighting at the town gates, arms were being given out, everybody was escaping, going away somewhere, and in general, something extraordinary was happening. And that is always exciting, especially to the young.
13?
Yeah. Sure.
On Saturday, the 31st of August, everything in the Rostovs' house seemed topsy-turvy. All the doors were open, all the furniture was being carried out or moved about, and the mirrors and pictures had been taken down. There were trunks in the rooms, and hay, wrapping paper, and ropes were scattered about. The peasants and house serfs carrying out the things were treading heavily on the parquet floors. The yard was crowded with peasant carts, some loaded high and already corded up, others still empty.
The voices and footsteps of the many servants and of the peasants who had come with the carts resounded as they shouted to one another in the yard and in the house. The Count had been out since morning. The Countess had a headache, brought on by all the noise and turmoil, and was lying down in the new sitting room with a vinegar compress on her head.
Maybe I should try that.
Do you think women get headaches more than men?
Probably, yes.
I think they do.
You know, infinitely more responsibility.
Right, yeah. Petya was not at home. He had gone to visit a friend with whom he meant to obtain a transfer from the militia to the active army. Sonia was in the ballroom looking after the packing of the glass and china. Natasha was sitting on the floor of her dismantled room with dresses, ribbons, and scarves strewn all about her, gazing fixedly at the floor and holding in her hands the old ball dress, already out of fashion, which she had worn at her first Petersburg ball.
Natasha was ashamed of doing nothing when everyone else was so busy, and several times that morning had tried to set to work, but her heart was not in it, and she could not and did not know how to do anything except with all her heart and all her might. For a while, she had stood beside Sonia while the china was being packed and tried to help, but soon gave it up and went to her room to pack her own things. At first, she found it amusing to give away dresses and ribbons to the maids, but when that was done and what was left had still to be packed, she found it dull.
Dunyasha, you pack. You will, won't you, dear? And when Dunyasha willingly promised to do it all for her, Natasha sat down on the floor, took her old ball dress, and fell into a reverie quite unrelated to what ought to have occupied her thoughts now. A friend of mine was telling me how, he thought for a really long time that reverie was a place.
Wait, what?
I think it was like a place. So it's like,
But isn't it like her reverie?
I don't know.
What context would make it sound like a
I
place?
don't know. I can't remember. Maybe it'll come to me. It was very cute.
That is
She was roused from her reverie by the talk of the maids in the next room, which was theirs, and by the sound of their hurried footsteps going to the back porch. Natasha got up and looked out of the window, An enormously long row of carts full of wounded men had stopped in the street.
Oh my god. The housekeeper, the old nurse, the cooks, coachmen, maids, footmen, postilions, and scullions stood at the gate staring at the wounded.
Natasha, throwing a clean pocket handkerchief over her hair and holding an end of it in each hand, went out into the street.
The former housekeeper, old Mavra Kuzminishna, had stepped out of the crowd by the gate, gone up to the cart with a hood constructed of bast mats, and was speaking to a pale young officer who lay inside. Natasha moved a few steps forward and stopped shyly, still holding her handkerchief, and listened to what the housekeeper was saying.
Then you have nobody in Moscow, she was saying. You'd be more comfortable somewhere in a house. In ours, for instance, the family are leaving.
I don't know if it would be allowed, replied the officer in a weak voice. Here is our commanding officer, ask him. And he pointed to a stout major who was walking back along the street past the row of carts.
Natasha glanced with frightened eyes at the face of the wounded officer and at once went to meet the major.
May the wounded men stay in our house, she asked.
The major raised his hand to his cap with a smile.
Which one do you want, mademoiselle? Said he, screwing up his eyes and smiling.
Mademoiselle. Natasha quietly repeated her question, and her face and whole manner were so serious, though she was still holding the ends of her handkerchief, that the major ceased smiling, and after some reflection, as if considering in how far the thing was possible, replied in the affirmative.
Oh, yes, why not? They may, he said.
With a slight inclination of her head, Natasha stepped back quickly to Mavra Kuzminichna, who stood talking compassionately to the officer.
They may, he says, they may, whispered Natasha.
The cart in which the officer lay was turned into the Rostovs' yard, and dozens of carts with wounded men began at the invitation of the townsfolk to turn into the yards and to draw up at the entrances of the houses in Povarskaya Street. Natasha was evidently pleased to be dealing with new people outside the ordinary routine of her life. She and Mavra Kuzminichna tried to get as many of the wounded as possible into their yard.
Your papa must be told, though, said Mavra Kuzminishna.
Never mind. What does it matter? For one day, we can move into the drawing room. They can have all our half of the house.
There now, young lady, you do take things into your head. Even if we put them into the men's room or the nurse's room, we must ask permission.
Well, I'll ask.
Natasha ran into the house and went on tiptoe through the half-open door into the sitting room, where there was a smell of vinegar and Hoffman's drops.
Are you asleep, Mama?
Oh, what sleep, said the Countess, waking up, just as she was dropping into a doze.
Mama, darling, said Natasha, kneeling by her mother and bringing her face close to her mother's. I'm sorry, forgive me, I'll never do it again. I woke you up. Mavra Kuzminichna has sent me. They have brought some wounded here, officers. Will you let them come? They have nowhere to go. I knew you'd let them come, she said quickly, all in one breath.
What officers? Whom have they brought? I don't understand anything about it, said the Countess.
Natasha laughed, and the Countess, too, smiled slightly.
I knew you'd give your permission, so I'll tell them. And having kissed her mother, Natasha got up and went to the door.
In the hall, she met her father, who had returned with bad news.
We've stayed too long, said the Count, with involuntary vexation. The club is closed and the police are leaving.
Pa, is it all right? I've invited some of the wounded into the house, said Natasha.
Of course it is, he answered absently.
He's like, the club is closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, whatever. That's not the point.
Yeah.
That's not the point. I beg you not to indulge in trifles now, but to help to pack, and tomorrow we must go, go, go!
And the Count gave a similar order to the major domo and the servants.
At dinner, Petya, having returned home, told them the news he had heard. He said the people had been getting arms in the Kremlin, and that though Rostovshin's broadsheet had said that he would sound a call 2 or 3 days in advance, the order had certainly already been given for everyone to go armed to the Three Hills tomorrow, and that there would be a big battle there.
The Countess looked with timid horror at her son's eager, excited face as he said this. She realized that if she said a word about his not going to the battle, she knew he enjoyed the thought of the impending engagement. He would say something about men, honor, and the fatherland, something senseless, masculine, and obstinate, which there would be no contradicting, and her plans would be spoiled. And so, hoping to arrange to leave before then and take Petya with her as their protector and defender, she did not answer him, but after dinner called the Count aside and implored him with tears to take her away quickly, that very night, if possible. With a woman's involuntary, loving cunning, she, who till then had not shown any alarm, said that she would die of fright if they did not leave that very night. Without any pretense, she was now afraid of everything.
Dear Lord.
Whew.
Maybe I need Oreos.
Yeah.
I don't know. My head hurts, and I feel like either a rush of sugar or caffeine, or does that ever happen to you?
Caffeine, definitely.
I know, but I can't have. That's why I got to
Okay.
sugar. I was like caffeine at 7, 8 o'clock.
Sugar might help. I feel like I once upon a time heard that apples help.
That's worth a Google. Should we read 14 or?
Yeah, sure. One more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just see where we're going here.
I have do you want like a peppermint stick?
Oh, the halo.
Yeah.
I have that too.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Good point. Sometimes I think it burns my eyes, but.
Yeah, don't put it too close.
Sometimes I think it burns my eyes, but that's usually when I put it. Oh, wait, it's out here. Sorry.
I will read. Chapter 14. Madame Schoss, who had been out to visit her daughter, increased the Countess's fears still more by telling what she had seen at a spirit dealer's in Mianitsky's street. Spirit dealers?
Boozers!
When returning by that street, she had been unable to pass because of a drunken crowd rioting in front of the shop. She had taken a cab and driven home by a side street, and the cabman had told her that the people were breaking open the barrels at the drink store, having received orders to do so. After dinner, the whole Rostov household set to work with enthusiastic haste, packing their belongings and preparing for their departure. The old count, suddenly setting to work, kept passing from the yard to the house and back again, shouting confused instructions to the hurrying people, and flurrying them still more. Petya directed things into the yard. Sonia, owing to the count's contradictory orders, lost her head and did not know what to do. The servants ran noisily about the house and yard, shouting and disputing. Natasha, with the ardor characteristic of all she did, suddenly set to work too. At first, her intervention in the business of packing was received skeptically. Everybody expected some prank from her and did not wish to obey her. But she resolutely and passionately demanded obedience, grew angry, and nearly cried because they did not heed her, and at last succeeded in making them believe her. Her first exploit, which cost her immense effort and established her authority, was the packing of the carpets. The Count had valuable Gobelin tapestries and Persian carpets in the house.
Goblin. Tapestries made by goblins.
Goblins? Is that what they are? What is Gobelin? I want to know. I'll look it up after. Or no, I'll look it up now. Yeah, maybe it's like Gobelins?
Yeah, it's
at the Goblins factory in Paris. Anyway. Ooh, picture. Ooh, nice tapestry. Yeah.
Tapestries?
Yeah. When Natasha set to work, 2 cases were standing open in the ballroom, one almost full up with crockery, the other with carpets. There was also much china standing on the tables, and still more was being brought in from the storeroom. A 3rd case was needed, and servants had gone to fetch it.
Sonia, wait a bit. We'll pack everything into these, said Natasha.
You can't miss. We have tried to, said the butler's assistant.
Oh, wait a minute, please.
And Natasha began rapidly taking out the case dishes and plates wrapped in the paper.
The dishes must go in here among the carpets, said she. She's a genius.
She is, actually. Well, it's a mercy if we can get the carpets alone into 3 cases, said the butler's assistant.
Oh, wait, please. And Natasha began rapidly and deftly sorting out the things. These aren't needed, said she, putting aside some plates of Kiev ware. These, yes, these must go among the carpets, she said, referring to the Saxony china dishes.
Don't, Natasha, leave it alone. We'll get it all packed, urged Sonia reproachfully.
What a young lady she is, remarked the major domo.
But Natasha would not give in. She turned everything out and began quickly repacking, deciding that the inferior Russian carpets and unnecessary crockery should not be taken at all. When everything had been taken out of the cases, they recommenced packing. And it turned out that when the cheaper things, not worth taking, had nearly all been rejected, The valuable ones really did all go into the 2 cases. Only the lid of the case containing the carpets would not shut down. A few more things might have been taken out, but Natasha insisted on having her own way. She packed, repacked, pressed, made the butler's assistant and Petya, whom she had drawn into the business of packing, pressed on the lid and made desperate efforts herself.
That's enough, Natasha, said Sonia. I see you were right, but just take out the top one.
I won't, cried Natasha, with one hand holding back the hair that hung over her perspiring face, while with the other she pressed down the carpets. Now press, Petya. Press, Vasilyevich. Press hard.
Harness! The carpets yielded and the lid closed. Natasha, clapping her hands, screamed with delight, and tears fell from her eyes. But this only lasted a moment. She had once set to work afresh, and they now trusted her completely. The Count was not even angry when they told him that Natasha had countermanded an order of his, and the servants now came to her to ask whether a cart was sufficiently loaded, and whether it might be corded up. Thanks to Natasha's directions, the work now went on expeditiously. Unnecessary things were left, and the most valuable packed as compactly as possible.
That's good.
I mean, anyone is probably good compared to the Count.
But hard as they all worked till quite late that night, they could not get everything packed. The Countess had fallen asleep, and the Count, having put off their departure till next morning, went to bed.
Jesus. We'll go tomorrow. Yeah. There's no like.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll just get stuck in traffic anyway.
They will.
Yeah, so.
Have you ever gotten stuck in like epic traffic?
Like escaping town traffic? No.
Yeah.
Escaping the fireball? No. Have you?
Yeah. It wasn't escaping a fireball, but there was a fish festival in Vermont. And my friend Alec and I just talked to today from high school. We're gonna go, and it's like a 3-day event. You like stay there,
Okay.
and it was their final show, their final festival before the band was gonna break up, which turns out they didn't. But anyway. And basically, the planning had gotten all fucked up, and the town, I think it was Coventry, was not remotely prepared for it. Either it was something like that, or it was some confluence of factors. It was like between that and then there had been rains, so there were like mudslides or some crazy like physical thing going on. So we were in, and because it's in this tiny town in Vermont, like they're not like set up for like hundreds of thousands, like 100,000 people.
Yeah.
I don't know how many, probably it was like 50 or 60,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so the road to the town, the road to the festival was like a road. It wasn't like multiple highways with exits or anything like that. So we, like, there's always kind of a line to go into this stuff. Like the previous one, we had waited for like several hours. This was not another one. To go in, like people will basically like turn off their cars and listen to music and walk up and down the other cars and like hang out. Yeah. But we ended up being in the Coventry line for something like 9 hours.
No.
That much. Yeah.
Oh my god.
And then they closed the entrances. So we were like devastated.
Yeah.
And couldn't go. Because they had reached capacity like well below. And apparently it was a clusterfuck, although I can't remember if I've ever talked to anyone who was there. And we had to turn around and drive all the way back to DC. And there was so much traffic on the way back as well.
Oh god, that's so disappointing.
It was heartbreaking, actually. I was so upset.
Yeah.
But then it almost bothered me that they like then started touring again. Because I was like, oh,
it wasn't that big a deal.
Bricks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man. See, I don't know. That's too much.
No,
it's too much, man. 9 hours in a car and then you don't even get to see the show.
It's multiple shows. It's 3 shows. It's a festival. So like there's a whole
festival.
Yeah, there's like 3 nights. They do 3 shows.
I wonder what else was happening at this festival.
I mean, the porta potties were fucked up.
I feel like a festival you need more than, you know.
A music festival only has music.
Were there other people performing? Okay, that's what's. I mean, there's probably like opening bands or something.
Maybe, but like, I don't remember there being that much. People would just hang out and do a bunch of drugs. I think.
Okay.
Like, I don't think we did that much at the other one I went to. I don't remember there being other bands. It was sort of like just living in a little campy town for not
Yeah,
campy.
Vermont sounds like a good town for that. Actually,
Uh,
I mean, I know it's not a town, but
living in like a little like commune for 3 days and there's shows every night. That's
yeah,
kind of
oh, okay. Where were we?
15.
Huh?
Only in chapter 15.
Yeah, I was just trying. Okay, the count went to sleep. Right. Sonia and Natasha slept in the sitting room without undressing.
Whoa.
Right?
Oh my god!
What?
Nothing.
She's,
I by accident did.
she found out something.
I by what chapter were we on? I by accidentally did.
I don't even know.
No, you need to tell me what the chapter is.
14.
Oh,
No.
so sorry. Afraid of Everything. Chapter 14. Wait,
We're chapter 14.
Madame Schoss.
Yeah, but we're like halfway through the chapter.
Oh, right, because of the
She
That's
just
before
packed the
packing.
carpets.
Got it.
And
Yeah, I'm
then
just trying to find it again.
and then they're gonna leave the next morning and Count Rostov goes to bed.
Mama, where is it? Went to bed.
Yeah.
Ah, thank you. Sorry, got it. Carry on. I don't know what you're looking at me for.
Okay. Sonia and Natasha slept in the sitting room without undressing.
That night, another wounded man was driven down the Povarskaya and Mavra Kuzminishna, who was standing at the gate, had him brought into the Rostovs' yard. Mavra Kuzminishna concluded that he was a very important man. He was being conveyed in a calash with a raised hood and was quite covered by an apron. On the box beside the driver sat a venerable old attendant. A doctor and 2 soldiers followed the carriage in a cart.
Please come in here. The masters are going away and the whole house will be empty, said the old woman to the old attendant.
Well, perhaps, said he with a sigh. We don't expect to get him home alive. We have a house of our own in Moscow, but it's a long way from here, and there's nobody living in it.
Do us the honor to come in. There's plenty of everything in the master's house. Come in, said Mavra Kuzminichna. Is he very ill? She asked.
The attendant made a hopeless gesture.
What are the chances?
I know, right?
The attendant, we don't expect to get him home. We must ask the doctor.
Oh, and the old servant got down from the box and went up to the cart.
All right, said the doctor.
The old servant returned to the calash, looked into it, shook his head disconsolate. I don't know how to say that word ever. Disconsolately, told the driver to turn into the yard and stopped beside. But how many people are they inviting in? Like, how big is this house? There's cartloads.
Very big.
I know, but there's like cartloads and cartloads of people.
Sounds like there's hundreds of people in here.
Yes, it does sound like hundreds of people.
I don't know. It's like Downton Abbey when they turn it into a hospital.
But this is Moscow.
Yeah.
It's a city. It's not like an estate.
That's true.
So I imagine it not being as big. I don't know.
Oh, Lord Jesus Christ, she murmured.
She invited them to take the wounded man into the house.
The masters won't object, she said.
But they had to avoid carrying the man upstairs, and so they took him into the wing and put him in the room that had been Madame Schoss's.
This wounded man was Prince Andrew. What a lucky scoundrel.
He has at least 3 lives.
At least 3. Yes, presumably.
That's what the tally's at. Okay. It's so interesting because I just caved and asked someone about it.
Did you?
Yeah, but I didn't look at the answer.
Oh, okay. for now. I wonder, do you think like the Rostovs are going to leave without them ever seeing each other?
No,
I'm saying, no, you do not think that.
I do not think
Maybe Natasha would stay.
that. Natasha is very in everyone's business. I don't see there being rooms that she doesn't go into. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wondered if they were going to do this like 2 ships passing in the night, like, oh, so sad, like they were there and then they weren't.
They might.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? I was going to say, when they started with this cartload of wounded soldiers, I already was like,
Yeah, I kept, and he being so vague about who the soldiers were. I was like, who's that?
oh, I didn't
He was
guess
in
that
there?
they were. That they were being vague about who it was.
But I thought,
Oh, just now.
what, like throughout the whole thing, it was like, oh, there's like a major, there's an officer, there's that, and I was like, there's going to be someone that we know, but it's going to be presented in a way that is just like an officer or something.
Yeah.
I actually wasn't sure. For a second, I was like, maybe Pierre's going to show up. I don't know.
Right.
He's going to be like, Natasha, run away with me. I don't know. Obviously not.
But he's like taken off. Just somewhere.
It's just,
He's gone to the spas.
he's going to go into the wilderness and have a vision.
You think?
I don't
You think he's
know.
on a vision quest?
I kind of, doesn't it feel like that? Like
Yes.
he's going into the wilderness?
Yes.
Yeah.
How long? Do you know how long the chapter is?
7 pages.
Can we read it?
Sure. You can read it.
Oh, it's 8:30.
Oh, so late.
Late 30. Okay.
Chapter 15. Moscow's last day had come. It was a clear, bright autumn day, a Sunday. The church bells everywhere were ringing for service, just as usual on Sundays. Nobody seemed yet to realize what awaited the city.
Only 2 things indicated the social condition of Moscow: the rabble, that is the poor people, and the price of commodities. An enormous crowd of factory hands, house serfs, and peasants, with whom some officials, seminarists, and gentry were mingled, had gone early that morning to the 3 Hills. Having waited there for Rostovshin, who did not turn up, they became convinced that Moscow would be surrendered, and then dispersed all about the town to the public houses and cookshops. Prices, too, that day indicated the state of affairs. The price of weapons, of gold, of carts and horses kept rising, but the value of paper money and city articles kept falling. I wonder what city articles are. So that by midday, there were instances of carters removing valuable goods such as cloth and receiving in payment a half of what they carted, while peasant horses were fetching 500 rubles each, and furniture, mirrors, and bronzes were being given away for nothing.
In the Rostovs' staid, old-fashioned house, the dissolution of former conditions of life was but little noticeable. As to the serfs, the only indication was that 3 out of their huge retinue disappeared during the night. But nothing was stolen, and as to the value of their possessions, the 30 peasant carts that had come in from their estates, and which many people envied, proved to be extremely valuable, and they were offered enormous sums of money for them. Not only were huge sums offered for the horses and carts, but on the previous evening and early in the morning of the 1st of September, orderlies and servants sent by wounded officers came to the Rostovs, and wounded men dragged themselves there from the Rostovs and from neighboring houses where they were accommodated, entreating the servants to try to get them a lift out of Moscow. The major domo, to whom these entreaties were addressed, though he was sorry for the wounded, resolutely refused.
That was so Canadian.
No, I heard it as it slipped out. It just slipped out.
Oh.
Sorry. Resolutely refused, saying that he dare not even mention the matter to the count. Pity these wounded men as one might. I'm so embarrassed now.
No!
It was evident that if they were given 1 cart, there would be no reason to refuse another, or all the carts and one's own carriages as well. 30 carts could not save all the wounded, and in the general catastrophe, one could not disregard oneself and one's own family. So thought the major domo on his master's behalf.
On waking up that morning, Count Ilya Rostov left his bedroom softly so as not to wake the countess, who had fallen asleep only toward morning, and came out to the porch in his lilac silk dressing gown. In the yard, I don't know. That makes so much sense.
The lilac. Okay.
In the yard stood the carts, ready corded. Okay, I don't understand that syntax. The carriages were at the front porch. The majordomo stood at the porch, talking to an elderly orderly and to a pale young officer with a bandaged arm. On seeing the count, the majordomo made a significant and stern gesture to them both to go away.
Well, Vasilich, is everything ready? Asked the count, and stroking his bald head, he looked good-naturedly at the officer and the orderly and nodded to them. He liked to see new faces.
We can harness at once, Your Excellency. Harness! Harness! Harness!
Yes.
We can harness at once, Your Excellency.
Well, that's right. As soon as the countess wakes, we'll be off, God willing. What is she sleeping in? What is it, gentlemen? He added, turning to the officer. Are you staying in my house?
Yeah, she didn't sleep until the morning.
Countess?
Yeah.
Oh.
She didn't fall asleep until she was busy.
I thought she's just been in bed. Hasn't she?
No, she's just been trying to sleep for years.
I think so. Okay.
That's what my one song is about. Okay. The officer came nearer, and suddenly his face flushed crimson.
Count, be so good as to allow me, for God's sake, to get into some corner of one of your carts.
What? Dear God, please let me just climb in the caboose.
I have nothing here with me. I shall be all right on a loaded cart.
Before the officer had finished speaking, the orderly made the same request on behalf of his master.
Oh, yes, said the count hastily. I shall be very pleased, very pleased. Vasilich, you'll see to it. Just unload one or two carts.
Oh my God.
Do what's necessary, said the count, muttering some indefinite order.
Oh my gods. But at the same moment, an expression of warm gratitude on the officer's face had already sealed the order. The count looked around him. In the yard, at the gates, at the window of the wings, wounded officers and their orderlies were to be seen. They were all looking at the count and moving toward the porch.
Please step into the gallery, Your Excellency, said the majordomo. What are your orders about the pictures?
The count went into the house with him, repeating his order not to refuse the wounded who asked for a lift.
Well, never mind. Some of the things can be unloaded, he added in a soft, confidential voice, so afraid of being overheard.
At 9 o'clock, the countess woke up, and Matrina Timofeevna, who had been her lady's maid before her marriage and now performed a sort of chief gendarme's duty for her, came to say that Madame Schoss was much offended and the young lady's summer dresses could not be left behind. Why was she offended? On inquiry, the countess learned that Madame Schoss was offended because her trunk had been taken down from its cart and all the loads were being uncorded and the luggage taken out of the carts to make room for wounded men whom the count, in the simplicity of his heart, had ordered that they should take with them. The countess sent for her husband. Unload your own shit, Ilya. Don't unload Madame Schoss's stuff.
But dresses, people.
Then they're gonna leave with nothing.
I guess so.
Except.
But I guess so.
I'm only saying this because from living in a place where there's a ton of poverty like India, or even I guess in New York, if you start giving money, there's a point at which you're like, hang on, what's the plan here?
Yeah.
So you have to either create artificial rules.
Yeah.
Which I did in New York.
Hmm.
I would be like, anyone who's like doing something, like singing, performing, dancing, whatever, I would give money to. But then I just like almost as a rule wouldn't. I don't know.
Because otherwise you're just, either it's arbitrary. You're like, sure, today I'll give money. I always felt like it was like super awkward. It's so bad, but if there's like a cluster of homeless people, it would make me not want to give to anyone. Because then I would feel like I have to give to everyone.
That makes sense. Yeah. And of course, like obviously they can afford something, but I guess what I'm saying is that the calculation of what you can and can't afford is like not the most obvious thing.
Okay. What is this?
I just bailed out the rich people.
I know. Well done.
You were like, you're right. It's really hard.
You're right. It's really hard for those rich people. They have to like draw the line somewhere.
Yeah. What are they supposed to wear in the spring?
What is this, my dear?
I was just saying that he should take down his stuff and not Madame Chosse's shit.
Right. Probably. If it's his order,
Yeah.
he should probably sacrifice his own stuff. As opposed to
Like, stuff can be unloaded. Other people's stuff.
I don't think he knows what it's even being taken. I think he has no idea.
He doesn't.
He hasn't been part of this at all.
Agree.
What is this, my dear? I hear that the luggage is being unloaded.
You know, love, I wanted to tell you, Countess dear, an officer came to me to ask...
Countess dear.
Countess dear. An officer came to me to ask for a few cards for the wounded. After all, ours are things that can be bought, but think what being left behind means to them. Really now, in our own yard, we ask them in ourselves, and there are officers among them. You know, I think, my dear, let them be taken. Where's the hurry?
The Count spoke timidly, as he always did when talking of money matters. The Countess was accustomed to this tone as a precursor of news of something detrimental to the children's interest, such as the building of a new gallery or conservatory, the inauguration of a private theater or an orchestra. She was accustomed always to oppose anything announced in that timid tone and considered it her duty to do so.
She assumed her dolefully submissive manner and said to her husband, "Listen to me, Count. You have managed matters so that we are getting nothing for the house, and now you wish to throw away all the children's property." Is that submissive? I don't know how to do this submissively.
There was a dagger to it, but yeah, it was good.
But like, listen to what she's saying.
It's like, listen, Count. I know, totally.
You said yourself.
You did it well. That's my assessment. I'm like, yeah. I think that's how the sauce should taste.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm glad we're here to just like validate each other's acting moments.
That's really what this is about, okay?
That is what this is about.
Yeah.
I wanna feel validated in my...
It's been so long. Since I had an audition where they were like,
I'm gonna do that from now on. I'm gonna be like, who are you? Okay. You said yourself that we have 100,000 rubles worth of things in the house. I don't consent, my dear, I don't. Do as you please. It's the government's business to look after the wounded. They know that. Look at the Lopukins opposite. They cleared out everything 2 days ago. That's what other people do. It's only we who are such fools. You have no pity on me, answer for the child, Ryan.
flourishing his arm in despair.
Like,
I don't know. The Count left the room without replying. Basically, yeah, drama at it.
Drama.
Yeah.
Flourishing.
He's in his lilac silk robe.
Papa, what are you doing that for? Asked Natasha, who had followed him into her mother's room.
Nothing. Business is of yours, muttered the Count angrily.
But I heard, said Natasha. Why does Mama object?
What business is it of yours? Cried the Count.
It is literally my business. Natasha stepped up to the window and pondered.
Papa, here's Bert coming to see us, said she, looking out of the window. Oh, yeah, Bert. You remember who that is?
Yeah, Vera's husband.
Oh, that's the end of the chapter. Cool. Well, look. There's that guy.
Oh, Bug! I love Bug's the one I love, right?
Yeah. We have the party that's just like all the other
Bug's the best. Bug up. What the fuck?
Ladies smell.
I don't even.
I'm not gonna respond to that.
I wouldn't even know how to respond if we were responding. That's the most confusing fucking thing I've ever seen. In any case. What's that?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not gonna respond to it. We're going on our road trip now. But thank you everyone for joining us.
And
Sunday.
Andrew.
Andrew's alive. So everything's great. He might die in the night though.
He might die in the night. He might die without them seeing each other. He might die with them seeing each other. He might die in harms.
Harms.
Why are we making them a couple again?
Do we want them to be a couple? Do we like them together? You were very concerned when they were together.
Yes,
You were like, he's going to eat her alive.
I did think that. Like
No,
a
I don't think
vampire.
so. No, I don't know. I think
Now I don't know.
if he's happy, he ruins it. And when he's dying, he's like, I love life.
I love life. But then even when he was like when his wounds were like not in remission, but like he was like, what was I missing life for?
He's
What was I
like,
loving
right,
life
I
for?
don't like this.
He was like, look at this. I'm in a fugly tent. There's that is happening in the world. Doing what? Do you actually know what's happening? Because I really don't.
I don't. But
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I do remember in the tent when he's like, there was a time when
I didn't want to die.
I liked being there.
Yeah. And now look,
Now it's back to normal.
even though he's getting to watch Anatoly potentially die, his leg was amputated. He's probably fine.
It's fine. I mean, he could have lost too much blood, you know?
Yeah.
I kind of think he might be dead.
You do?
Yeah.
Because it would just also be too crazy for them both to not be dead. For
A
Pierre to
little
be
bit
the
of that,
most
and there's something
uninformed.
really sad about that.
About what?
He's like he's such an asshole. And then he dies. And his wife never hears about it. I don't know.
Who's his wife again?
Was
Julie?
she French? No.
No, that's Boris's wife.
Yeah. She's like some lesser class person. It was a shotgun wedding, I think.
His original wife.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
what-
yeah, yeah.
She's not married.
No, she was Polish, I think.
Polish, okay.
Yeah. Just some girl on the road.
Girl.
Yep.
I want to hear her story. That's the sequel I'm gonna write. War and Peace 2. Polish wife.
I like it. I think you should do it. After one of our conversations here, I fully wrote it down in my phone to discuss how we definitely need to write something, even though I don't, right?
Yeah.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
About Helen Keller's teacher.
Oh my god.
A relationship or something. Like a really horribly offensive.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like that.
Do you?
A lot. I
Okay.
really, really do.
So we'll
Annie.
discuss it later. Annie! What's her last name?
Sullivan?
Yes. Oh, good. See, it's destiny.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good